We have attempted to create a truly worthy monument to the ideals and achievements of the South, and a great contribution of the Southern heritage to our national life and character.
Those are the words of Walker Hancock, expressing the original purpose of the Confederate Memorial. Hancock is the last in a line of 3 sculptors who so skillfully applied their talents to Stone Mountain and carved this breathtaking and awe-inspiring monument. It was in 1958 that the Stone Mountain Memorial Association was created by an act of the Georgia legislature. It set a goal to establish a fitting tribute to the Confederacy. The association planned on achieving that goal in 2 ways. First, by completing the as yet unfinished Confederate Memorial, the largest sculpture on Earth. And second, by constructing the Memorial Plaza, 13 symbolic terraces representing each of the Confederate states. The association achieved its goal. A state map and natural landscaping complete each terrace. The plaza is a quiet place to reflect on the magnitude of the carving and the majestic Stone Mountain. A fitting tribute to the Confederacy it is, and much, much more. The Confederate Memorial lies within Stone Mountain Park, which has become the biggest tourist attraction in the state of Georgia. The park is a 3,200-acre world of recreation, entertainment, leisure, and education, located 16 miles east of Atlanta. Lakes, woodlands, attractions, and festivities all surround the extraordinary carving and invite visitors from near and far to relax and enjoy themselves. Join us for a trip through Stone Mountain Park. Come and see for yourself what lures over 6 million people every year. Visitors to the park stand in awe, gazing up at the memorial, depicting Confederate President Jefferson Davis, Generals Robert E. Lee, and Stonewall Jackson. It is the world's largest piece of sculpture, cut into the side of the world's biggest exposed mass of granite. The sculpture towers 400 feet above the ground in a frame that measures 3 acres. Its size boggles the mind. To give you a better idea of how big it really is, here are a few statistics and comparisons. Lee is the central figure in the carving, and the measurement from the top of his head to where his sword fades into the mountain is 90 feet. His head alone is 15.5 feet high. The deepest point of the sculpture is at his elbow, which is about 12 feet into the mountain surface. The first horse's eye is larger than a bushel basket, and a 6-foot man can stand in the horse's mouth. Jackson's nose measures 4.5 feet, and his eyes are more than a foot across. From the top of the first horse's nose to the end of Jackson's cape measures almost 190 feet. If you took a group of men, each 6 feet tall, and stretched them out head to foot, you'd need about 31 of them to reach out 190 feet. To compare it to another famous carving, Mount Rushmore, the busts of Washington, Lincoln, Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt are about 65 feet high and cover an area only about 1/3 the size of the Stone Mountain carving. One of the most spectacular views of the carving can be seen from Memorial Hall. It offers not only a tremendous panorama, but also features a taped narrative of the geology of Stone Mountain and the history of the construction of the carving. In the hall, you'll also find the Confederate War Museum, which houses a collection of Civil War artifacts. Memorial Hall is located at the crest of Memorial Plaza. The plaza extends from Memorial Hall to the base of the mountain, ending with a 2-acre pool flanked by 2 bronze statues. Designed by Walker Hancock, the statues depict valor, a young soldier with a broken sword, and sacrifice, which represents the suffering of women and children in a time of conflict. It was early in the 1900s that the idea of turning Stone Mountain into a monument was born. The Atlanta chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy first envisioned a memorial to the men who had fought and died so valiantly during the Civil War. Mrs. Helen Plain of the chapter consulted a man named Gutzon Borglum made models and sketches of the project, and in 1923, after having been interrupted by World War I, he announced he was ready to begin carving. The face of the mountain and 10 adjoining acres of land had been deeded to the UDC in 1916 by the Venable family. They stipulated that the property would be turned back to them if a suitable monument was not completed by the middle of March 1928. The world's largest sculpture presented some unprecedented problems. Trucks of that period were not powerful enough to climb Stone Mountain. Ox carts had to be used to haul materials needed to build a stairway going from the top of the mountain down to the carving site. Projecting a sketch of the monument onto the mountain was another problem that the inventive Borglum solved by projecting the image and tracing it on the mountain with paint. The size of Borglum's project was so huge that a luncheon was held in honor of the unveiling of Lee's head. 20 VIPs attended the meal. They were all seated together at a table that was set up on Lee's shoulder. A few months later, work began slowing down. Personality clashes between Borglum and his associates grew, and in March 1925, Borglum destroyed the models and sketches of the monument and left Georgia. While no sign of his work remains here, Borglum headed west and gained lasting fame with another sculpture. He went on to carve Mount Rushmore. Augustus Lukeman was the next sculptor assigned to the task. Starting in April 1925, Lukeman knew he could never complete the memorial before the 1928 deadline. What he hoped to do was to complete enough to show that he could and would finish the project. So he worked at top speed. Lukeman created a new design in the classic style, showing Davis, Lee, and Jackson on horseback as the central figures, followed by an army apparently marching out of the solid rock. Cutting into Stone Mountain had to be done mechanically, since explosives could crack the granite. It took 4 men to hold a pneumatic drill so that holes could be made. A drill was good for only a few minutes before its point became dull. 2 blacksmiths on the ground were kept busy sharpening and repairing drill points. Lukeman blocked out the figures of Lee and Davis, finished their faces, and also roughly outlined Lee's horse, Traveler, before the deadline of March 20th, 1928. He proved he was capable of completing the monument. But 2 months later, the family reclaimed their property, ending the UDC's and Lukeman's chance to finish the memorial. The carving remained dormant from 1928 until 1964. It was in 1958, 30 years after work halted, that the Georgia legislature decided to develop the state's greatest tourist attraction. The legislature named a Stone Mountain Memorial Association with authority to purchase the mountain and surrounding land. The association approved the plans of sculptor Walker Kirtland Hancock to complete the carving. The foreman of the working crew, Roy Faulkner, a young Marine veteran, experimented with a new carving tool to be used and discovered he had a knack for it. The thermojet torch could remove several tons of stone in a day. That's more than what 48 men could do in a week with drills and wedges. Although the foreman had never had an art lesson, he was assigned some smoothing tasks by Hancock while the search continued for an experienced carver. Soon the search was forgotten. Roy Faulkner's work was so good that he worked on the face of the mountain for more than 6 years, in which time he completed the world's largest carving. The sculpture was continued from Lukeman's master model, with several important changes made by Hancock. Hancock ended the monument just below the rider's knees, creating an illusion that the horsemen were emerging from the rough stone. He also left off the army that was to appear to the right of Stonewall Jackson. The memorial to the Confederacy was officially dedicated in May 1970. The work continued into the first part of 1972 when the last bit of construction materials were removed. This granite monolith on which the sculpture is carved stands alone on a gently rolling plateau near the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Most geologists agree that Stone Mountain formed under the Earth's crust as volcanic pressure moved the huge mass of igneous rock toward the surface. Outside pressure was greater than the volcanic pressure, so the igneous rock remained between these two pressures, cooling very slowly and forming granite. The mountain was millions of years in the making. While it was forming under the Earth's crust, erosion was removing the outside soil. The domed mountain rises 825 feet above the surrounding land, but the portion we can see is only the tip of the granite. During the mid-1800s, a thriving quarry industry grew up around Stone Mountain. Though several million cubic feet of granite have been quarried, the cuttings have barely made a dent. The stone has been used in the construction of buildings in nearly every state. It can be found in the U.S. Capitol building and in Tokyo's Imperial Hotel. It's also been used to line the Panama Canal. Today, no granite is quarried at Stone Mountain. Its granite is rare and is found nowhere else in Georgia. Stone Mountain's gray color is not due to the granite, but the lichens which grow in almost all weathered stone. The lichens then break down the granite into soil. Out of this soil grow trees that are some of the most spectacular plant life on Stone Mountain. Along the walk-up trail are tall, slim pines growing in the rich but shallow soil. Gnarled and twisted red cedars, almost a foot in diameter, grow precariously in the narrow cracks. Some are estimated at 500 to 800 years old, looking every bit their age. Outdoor enthusiasts can hike the 1.3-mile climb to the summit of Stone Mountain. The climb can be strenuous depending on what kind of shape you're in. Stone Mountain Park is a great place for taking long walks, jogging, and bike riding. Miles of paths provide safe and scenic walkways. The park's wildlife trails, more than 20 acres of natural woodlands, are home to many Native American animals on exhibit year-round. A real thrill for youngsters is the Traders Camp Petting Farm. Kids can't help but love the Traders Camp, where they can actually reach out and pet pygmy goats, calves, donkeys, and ponies. If too much walking has you tuckered out, step back in time for a moment and enjoy a ride on a replica of the Iron Horse from our nation's past. This train is one of 2 Civil War steam trains we have making up the Stone Mountain Scenic Railroad. With smoke billowing and shrill whistles blasting, passengers take off on a wonderful ride around the 5-mile base of the mountain. Both of the trains were built in the early 1900s. The Texas II is a replica of a wood-burning steam engine that made its way along the Gulf Coast through Texas and Louisiana. The other engine, the General II, was designed after the original, which was stolen by Stonewall Jackson and the Raiders during the Civil War. Railroad track was first laid in this area in 1854. The coming of the railroad allowed quarrymen to transport granite they extracted from the mountain. Stone Mountain's Memorial Depot is another railroad replica. It's a 3/4 scale of Atlanta's first major railroad terminal and retains the 1800s theme. The original station was located near underground Atlanta. It was destroyed during General Sherman's occupation of Atlanta on his famous March to the Sea. The park's depot is also home to park information, a restaurant and gift shop. Of course, it also has a boarding platform for the Stone Mountain Railroad. As you take in all the sights throughout the park, you won't want to miss the antebellum plantation. The plantation features 19 authentically restored buildings. It shows you what Southern life was like before the Civil War. The buildings and artifacts were brought to Stone Mountain Park from various places throughout Georgia. The highlight of Stone Mountain's plantation is the Manor House. It was built originally on a 1,000-acre spread near Dickey, Georgia, around 1850. And it is the house that reminds us most of Tara from the movie Gone with the Wind.
This house was moved here when it was purchased by the state in 1961. The gentleman's parlor and the ladies' parlor are separated because in those days the gentlemen would have their brandies, they smoked, drank, and had it in the evening, and the ladies did not join in those days, you know. So they would have their little tea parties on this side. We do have a beautiful bedroom back there, master bedroom, and also a dressing room that we want you to see, and a bride in the daughter's room. We have a beautiful dining room, and the windows are Palladian-style windows, and it has hand carving. So has the hallway here. You'll notice the hand carving in the hallway and also in the Palladian style window that goes into the drawing room. I hope you're going to enjoy being here. Thank you very much for coming.
The cookhouse on every plantation was located next door to the manor house. Because if there were a fire in the kitchen, only the cookhouse burned down. Come on in and sample some delicious cornbread that's cooked here every day over the hearth. 2 clapboard cabins built between 1825 and 1840 near Covington, Georgia, show how simple and bare life could be as a slave on the large farm or plantation. The furniture was usually made by the slaves or was discarded by the plantation owners. The Stone Mountain Memorial Association developed the 19-building complex to illustrate the social and economic structure of the period between 1820 and 1860. The plantation correctly represents the bare-bones lifestyle of the slaves set against the opulence of the planters' way of life. The mild Georgia climate provides almost a whole year of weather for outdoor activities. From March through December, the park hosts many exciting and special events.
It's nice and hot, and we will come down and form it. Again, notice how easily the metal bends when it is hot. That is the whole secret of the blacksmithing operation, is getting and keeping the metal hot. The expression, strike while the iron is hot, came from this.
Each new season begins in March with a celebration of Southern heritage at the antebellum plantation. The entire complex comes to life with storytellers, 19th century music, and demonstrating craftsmen. Civil War reenactments, both Union and Confederate troops, set up camp for the 6-day festival. It's a fun and entertaining way to study history and the South. If you love good barbecue, then you'll find the best at the annual Barbecue Pork Cook-Off that's held the first weekend in May. Hickory smoke, clever themes, good food, and of course a real good time are guaranteed at this most distinctive event. Fireworks and picnics, beach fun, and concerts highlight the park's 4-day celebration of our nation's independence. And on July 4th, one of Georgia's biggest fireworks displays is set off from the mountain's top. The fireworks bursting in air can be seen from miles away. Dainty and rare Confederate yellow daisies, which bloom each September, are honored with the Southeast's largest outdoor arts and crafts show, the Yellow Daisy Festival. The arts, the crafts, the music, the food, and the playing good fun attract over 200,000 each year. The sound of bagpipes take you back to the old country at the nation's largest gathering of the clans. Held every October, the Stone Mountain Scottish Festival and Highland Games beckon visitors of Scottish descent from all around the world. Everyone wears plaid at the piping and drumming performances held throughout this annual event. And for the Scotsmen willing to compete in the old games, such as caber toss, strength and vitality are definitely required. The holiday season at Stone Mountain Park is celebrated under a magnificent tree of lights atop the mountain. Drive through a fantasy land of decorations, visit with Santa and his elves, or take in a special holiday laser show feature. Starting in November, we're all lit up to make your season bright. The sunny Georgia weather also makes the park a great place to enjoy all types of outdoor recreation. Every golfer is challenged by our 27-hole championship course, rated one of the top 25 in Golf Digest. Or bring your racket for a round of tennis. Young and old compete on our 36-hole mini golf course. Be sure to hit a few at the slow and fast-pitch batting cages. If it's the summer sun you love, our white sandy beaches provide a multitude of activities. And for indoor recreation, slip on a pair of ice skates any time of the year and try your skills in our Olympic-sized rink. Canoeing, boating, and fishing are popular pastimes too. Head out onto one of the lakes in the park. They're heavenly for anglers and boaters, whether it's trolling for the big one or just taking in the scenery. While you're out on the water, on the do-it-yourself paddle boats, Listen for the sounds of the 732-bell carillon chiming in the breeze, or look for Scarlett O'Hara and Henry Grady. Our Scarlett is an 80-ton riverboat that floats up, down, and around the 363-acre Stone Mountain Lake. Our other riverboat is called the Henry Grady. Henry is 90 feet long and weighs in at 110 tons. Visitors enjoy the leisurely cruises on these magnificent paddle wheel structures. They often rent them out for parties and for weddings. Stone Mountain has other modes of transportation in addition to these old-fashioned ones. Take an exciting ride and head up, up, and away. One of 2 Swiss-made cable cars whisks you to the summit of the mountain, where a spectacular view of the park and the surrounding countryside is yours to savor. For nostalgia buffs, there's nothing like the Antique Auto and the Music Museum for a trip back to the early days of autos and music machines. Does anyone remember the time when Father loved his Model T so much he parked it in the parlor in the winter? Plenty of accommodations are available to visitors who stay overnight. Our new Evergreen Conference Center and Resort provides 250 luxurious guest rooms and suites that overlook beautiful Stone Mountain Lake. Hidden on a wooded peninsula, it's the perfect place to relax first class at the end of a business or even vacation day. Comfortable and cozy rooms await weary guests at the Colonial Stone Mountain Inn, or pitch a tent at Atlanta's only lakeside campground. Quiet and scenic retreats are found throughout the park. An authentic covered bridge spans the peaceful waters of Stone Mountain Lake, and a secluded walkway leads to an old grist mill. A must-see on your trip to the park is the laser show. The renowned performance, displayed nightly all summer long, attracts over 2 million spectators annually. The show is a mind-boggling extravaganza of luminous lasers, popular music, theatrical lights, and fireworks that come together to pierce the darkness, creating configurations of song and story. It's a thrilling technological and multi-sensory show that illuminates the mountain and fills the quietness of the night with music. Bring a quilt, stretch out under the stars, and be entertained by the most spectacular laser show anywhere. When the UDC set out to honor the Confederacy, they couldn't have known how monumental their tribute would become. The show links together the past and the present, as does all of Stone Mountain Park. The tradition and pride of a bygone era is coupled with the technological achievements of the present. The monument honors the heritage of the South and its contribution to our national character. And the grandeur made by man complements the beauty of nature. Mother Nature's grandeur on Stone Mountain is as breathtaking and awe-inspiring to visitors today as it was to those who passed this way in days gone by.